very simple. Let's say you have an array that contains simply letters like A, B, C, and A again. So you see you have this array. As it's an array, it provides you with this filter method. And the filter method is very special because it's a function, you see, that takes as a parameter a function, which is called a callback. So what you will do is that filter will go through this array, and for each element it can do something to select or to discard something. So let's say we want to retrieve all the A letters. So let's say that for each letter, and you are free to call this anything you want. You could call this AZD, but it makes less sense. So let's call this letter. So what you want to do, you want to keep the letter only if it's the letter A. So you're just asking to keep the letter if the letter is the letter A. And you can immediately see that what will be returned is another array with the letters A only. If you wanted to, this is important with filter, it's the kind of function that returns a new array. So you'll start with this array, and you want another array that will contain only the letters A. And if you wanted to do the same, to return a new array that would contain only the letters B, it would figure out that there is only one B, and it would keep it. This implements what we call immutability. So you don't change this array to make it an array that only contains the letter B or the letter A. It will filter, it return a new array without changing the original one, which is very convenient. In our case, what we want is to filter an array of objects, because remember, every movie that we associate with a date is an object. So you can create an array of objects, so each element is going to be an object. So let's create an array with 3 objects, and now let's say that every object represents a person that has a name. Let's go for Bob, and an age. Let's make him 35. We have another guy whose name is Jim with an age of 55. And a third guy who happens to also be named Bob and an age of 26. Or let's say you want to only keep the person whose name is Bob. So now you see that it would retrieve 2 objects. Why? Because we have one Bob here and one Bob there. And if you wanted to keep only the Jims, you would take Jim and it would keep just one object. So if we press return, we'll have confirmation of this. We have a Jim, age 55. And if we wanted to filter this array to only keep Bobs, we would retrieve an array of 2 objects. So this is the same method we're going to use with our array to keep. So if we go back to application, you can see that we have more complex arrays, but it would be the same logic. And we want to keep only the movies that match a specific date. So for example, if we wanted to keep all the movies that were planned for January 20th, it would return an array containing Ready Player One. If we wanted to keep movies that we chose to watch on January 17th, it would keep only Terminator with a missing A. Another important thing is that you can see this is a function. Maybe you're not used to this form, but you can create a function by using the keyword function, as we did many times. Do something, it doesn't matter. Or you can creating a function without the function keyword by using this, what was used to be called a fat arrow. So it's an equal sign followed by a greater than. But it's the same thing. If we wanted to do this way, it's almost the same thing, because then the keyword of this wouldn't be the same, but it would be something that we could talk about in another video. So it's exactly the same thing as if we had done this. Just for things to be super explicit, you see, it would work the same. So for each person, you would want to return. This time you would have to use the keyword return because you use this curly bracket. You would want to return this person and to keep it in a new array if the name of this person were Bob. Bo doesn't work. Bob returns 2 guys. You see, it works the same. So use the form you prefer. So it was faster to just use this form rather than this one, but both work perfectly. And in both cases, you can see that what is returned is a new array. So you could call the result Bobs, for example. And you see now, Bobs would contain all the Bobs. So what is really crucial to understand is that filter is a function that is provided by arrays, and it can be an array of objects or just an array of letters or strings. And when you filter on an object, you need to pass a function that will be instructed how to filter the array that is on the left of filter. So you want to keep people, or I should say objects, with the name of Bob. And you could also be super clear and mention that you have an array of persons, for example, or it would be employees. So you could have an array of employees, and let's just keep copy and paste the 3 same persons. So you'd have this array of employees, and then you could use this method, the filter function, because it's provided by all arrays. So you could filter and say that, for example, you want to keep only the employees that have the name of Bob. And as before, you could keep it in another array, like let's call this one Bob's employees. You see, what is critical to understand is that now your employees still have 3 elements. So it hasn't been affected by the filter function. And the Bob's employees is a totally new array that contains only Bob's. Filter didn't change, it didn't mutate the original array. So employees still has 3 objects, and Bob employees is a new array that has only 2 objects, because we used the original array and we filtered based on this condition, the condition of having an employee with the name of Bob. So play with filter, try to filter object based on age, for example.